Warm greetings to all the learners of this course, Rural Marketing. This is Dr. Nazia Sultana, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, Osmania University. As a part of this course, today we are going to learn about promotions. So, how companies are promoting their products to rural audiences, we are going to learn about that today. Before that, let me give you a glimpse about rural economy in India. Rural economy in India, if you see, the total population of India itself is somewhere around 1.34 billion and rural population is 0.93 billion. And this rural Indian economy contributes to about 101.69 lakh crores to the total economy of India. These statistics are according to the survey which was done by KPMG and CII in India 2019-20. Now, keeping this in mind, rural economy offers a lot of opportunities to the companies in India. Many brands are penetrating into rural market and therefore there stands many abundant opportunities for companies to tap in rural areas. The emerging trends which are there in rural India are to do with growth in demand for brown goods and white goods. Now, the brown goods, when you see, these are the appliances, household electronic appliances which we use usually for purposes such as television, digital cameras and all. And you have white goods which are household appliances which are used daily in our daily lives by rural women. For example, television sets, refrigerators, air conditioners, washing machines, these are all white goods. So, you have growing demand in brown goods as well as white goods from rural India, because most of the rural women are employed in many manufacturing sectors which are set up in rural economy. Therefore, you have the growth in these products. So, companies can target the rural India for all these products. Though the whole of the world economy was shrinking because of pandemic, but rural India still grew because of pandemic also on account of reverse migration. Laborers went from urban areas back homes to their rural areas, which increased consumption. So, therefore, there was a demand in consumption of FMCG goods, though the entire Indian economy was shrinking, but because of schemes such as MNREGA, that is to do with the rural employment generation scheme, and also the Pradhan Mantri Kalyan Yojana, you have got rural economy contributing significantly to the growth of Indian economy and stabilization of the economy during COVID as well. So, keeping this background in mind, let me talk about what is promotion and how marketers need to understand the promotion in the context of rural India. Now, promotion is basically communication which happens. So, the company as a brand is trying to communicate to the customers the various products that they produce, and they communicate the benefits of these products, they communicate why the product should be used, how it should be used, where is it available, what is the price that is being charged. All this needs to be communicated to the rural audiences. So, therefore, the process of marketing communication involves three things. Firstly, it involves information. The company has to give information about the product to the rural audiences. Second, it has to persuade. Rural audiences should be convinced that they have to use the product. So, therefore, persuasion, and again reminder. Once they are convinced, though they buy, but they may forget to purchase again. So, repeat purchase has to be done. Therefore, marketing communication concentrates on these three aspects: information, persuasion and reminder, so that the rural audiences gain attention, there is interest arousal, they start desiring the product and they take up an action of purchasing and repeat purchasing of that particular product. Now, how do these companies communicate to the rural audiences? There should be some channel, right, through which they communicate. So, therefore, the channel that they use for communication is broadly of two types. You have a personal communication channel and there is a non-personal communication channel. As the very word personal, which involves interaction between two or more people. It could either be face to face, or it could also be person to audiences, a group of audience, or it could be over the telephone as well. Then you have non-personal communication, where you would have a media which is being used. So media becomes the channel of communication to the rural audiences, where you could have print media. So you would have the newspapers and pamphlets and all which can be used. You can have broadcast media, where you would have television and radio which can be used. You have outdoor media, where you talk about signboards, billboards, wall printing, all this can be done. Or you have the modern e-commerce platforms, where you take into consideration the social media platforms which can be used for communicating. These are non-personal. Apart from this, you also have something called as atmospheric media. You also have events which can be organized, because we are talking about rural audiences. They get mostly involved in events. So you can use atmospherics and events also to promote. So this rural media basically can be conventional, which is radio, television, cinema and print media. It can be non-conventional, where you talk about outdoor media, as I told, wall printing. You can also involve folk media, that is theatre. You can have folk songs, folk dance, folk music, puppet shows which can be there. It can also be on account of hearts and melas which are organized in the rural area, where rural audiences participate in large number in these melas. You can go with demonstration and displays, or giving of pamphlets and all which can be done. So that way you would have the classification. Now when you have to think about attracting these rural audiences, how does the company decide about attracting them? See, in an urban area it is quite different, because the audiences take decision independently according to their buying behavior. So you would have influences such as your own family, or you would have friends and relatives which can influence your buying decision. So promotion becomes easy to the urban audience. But when you talk about a rural audience, they are guided by a lot of factors, such as their language, their culture, their entire the village setup which is there, and you have the opinion leaders who are called as the people who are administrators of the entire village, like the gram panchayats. You have got the sarpanch, who all are called as opinion leaders. So therefore they also influence the purchase decision of these rural audiences. So therefore, when a company is targeting their promotions to the rural people, they should keep in mind that it can go direct to the people, but these rural masses, their purchase decisions get influenced by the sarpanch or by the gram panchayat decision. So therefore, targeting these opinion leaders should be the first criteria of the marketers who are trying to penetrate into rural area. So you have a rural media model, where you talk about companies trying to reach the rural audiences by influencing the opinion leader first. These opinion leaders are nothing but, as I told, the gram panchayat, the sarpanch and all, who will try to influence the buying decisions of the rural consumers. So companies should first try to attract these people, convince these people, the opinion leaders, so that once they are won over, before targeting the rural masses, because the sarpanch and all will have an impact on the purchase decisions of these other people. So all the media that you use for communicating, you can direct your communications to the opinion leaders who are there. And the penetration which happens in the rural areas, which media to use, because people, the companies usually get confused as to which media should they use when they try to reach the rural audience. Should they use television, should they go by radio, should they choose print media or cinema? So it becomes difficult for them to understand which media do they have to choose. So therefore, choice of the media for the rural audiences depends upon few factors. The first factor is reach. How many audiences are you trying to reach? So television has got the highest reach, so you can reach to mass audiences using television. You can also use radio to reach mass audiences. You have cinema which can also be used, but the frequency of it will differ. So therefore you have cinema also which can reach to mass audiences. And you have got hearts and melas which can also reach to large audiences. But the problem with the last two, that is the cinema and the heart and mela, is that the frequency, it is not very frequent that cinemas are being shown or hearts and melas are being organized. So therefore you would have television and radio as the highest reaching media in the rural areas. Then that is the first factor. That is, do you want to reach a mass audience or do you want to reach a customized audience? So based on that, you can choose television, radio or cinema, wall printing, hearts, melas, you can choose such. We have examples of companies which have been trying to do wall printing and all. Say for example, the Shakti project which was there, that used to a great extent wall printing. So the houses which were the pakka houses in the rural area, they started printing the walls of the houses with all the advertisements of the Shakti project. So that is how you would have people, whoever would pass that lane and get in touch with the people of that particular house, they would read and see what is printed on the wall. That is how wall printing was being used. So first one point is reach. The second one is audience involvement. Now if you choose a media, what kind of audience involvement do you want? If you want audience involvement which is very high, then you have to choose a media such as a video rath. So you would have a mobile van in which a video is being played, and while the van is moving in the village, you would have more and more people who get involved in it, because you do not know how many people are actually involved in seeing your advertisements and promotions when it is on television. But when it is in a mela or when it is in a hart or when it is in a rath, you know that there are so many people who are involved. So depending on how many audiences you want to get involved, based on that you have to have a choice of media. Then what is the cost that the customer is incurring to have access to the media? Television, say for example, you have to pay a subscription charge to the television which you have. Then radio, you see, depends upon the frequencies which are there. So the viewing cost, the cost is almost zero in radio. Then you would have print media, you need to purchase the newspaper, so you would have a little amount of cost which is being involved. Whereas audiences will bear no cost if it is related to wall printing or rath or mela and hart. They simply go and participate, and as you are promoting, you will get to see so many people are viewing your ad in the mela or in the hart and all. So these audiences are not incurring any money as such. So there is no viewing cost. They don't have to incur any cost to view your ad. Your ad is viewed by them without incurring any cost as such. So as a company, when you are entering into a rural market, you also have to understand whether these audiences are ready to bear any kind of a cost to view your product. So you have viewing cost. And what kind of an exposure do you want? Do you want an exposure which is permanent, or do you want an exposure which is transient? So permanent exposure if you want, then you can talk about print media, because it is there in the print, and people can look at the newspaper again and again or pamphlet again and again, and it remains in their mind for a long period of time. But if you see television or if you see radio ad, for example, when people are viewing, listening to some kind of a program on radio, then they would listen to even the ad which is there, but it is very likely that they forget the ad next day. So therefore the permanency factor or the exposure which is there can be very minimum. Also, not everybody may be listening at the same time to the radio. Say you may listen and the other person may not listen. So if your ad is aired in radio on, say for example, 5th of February, then it is not sure that how many people are listening radio on 5th of February. So therefore you would have exposure which is very transient. It is not a permanent exposure which is there. Then you have e-commerce platforms which are there. So a lot of penetration is happening in rural areas, as because of pandemic also many people started having access to social media even in rural areas. You had many schemes of the government also which started functioning in the rural area because of the e-commerce platforms. So you would many companies such as LIC uses LED mobile vans in order to promote their product in the rural area. So what is this LED mobile van? They use a van which is mobile, that is it can go into the interior parts of the rural area, and onto this van there is an LED screen. So on this LED screen the ad is being aired, and as the van keeps moving, people can view the ad as the van is moving. So it is called as a mobile LED van. So LIC uses that. You also have many other private companies also which are using mobile LED vans. Then you would also have companies which are promoting using puppet shows. So puppet shows are also being used by majority of the companies. As I told you about Shakti project, wall printing was being used by them. You have melas and hats also which are being used. You also have specific state governments where they are using these medias to reach rural areas. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, you have something called as Rajiv Gandhi Mahila Vikas Pariyojana. This Rajiv Gandhi Mahila Vikas Pariyojana works in Uttar Pradesh using all e-platforms. So, they use all social media, OTT, hyperlocal services in order to reach the rural audiences. So, you would have that kind of a program also which runs in rural area. To take example from Telangana state, there is a jatra called as Medaram Jatra. So, for this Medaram Jatra, the government of Telangana, the department used mobile LED vans. So, that is also being used for promotions. In Madhya Pradesh, you have a fair, that is a mela which is being organized by the name International Herbal Fair, because rural people are more oriented towards Ayurvedic and herbal products. So, the government there, local government organizes a fair every year where they invite herbal and Ayurvedic brands all over the world to participate. So, they organize like it's like an exhibition as we say, but in rural area it is called as a mela. So, you call it as an International Herbal Fair which is organized in Madhya Pradesh. Many brands participate in that. Telangana government also started one more activity called as the Raitu Vedika. Raitu Vedika, where they are trying to have a meeting room for the farmers, because the farmers in a particular local area, if they want to have a meeting or to discuss anything, maybe crop, productivity, production, anything if they want to discuss, there was not a common place available for them. So, Telangana government started this initiative of having Raitu Vedika, and this promotion of Raitu Vedika is happening through the use of mascot. That is, they have built artificial cows and artificial farmer using clay and bricks and all, and through that model which is being set up, the Telangana government is trying to attract farmers through this concept of Raitu Vedika. Then you also have some other programs of the government like the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty. What these people usually do is they have mixture of promotions strategies where they take into consideration most prominently that they use is personal interaction. So, they have personal interaction with people, and through that interaction they are being promoting their schemes to remove poverty. Now, coming to these were some of the examples which where companies are trying to have promotion strategies. Now, when you say promotion, like how you have a marketing mix where you talk about the 4 P's, the product, price, place and promotion, those are the 4 P's of marketing. To market anything, you need a product, you need a price for it, you have to promote it, and there should be a place where it is available. So, it is called as marketing mix: product, price, place, promotion. Similarly, you have got something called as a promotion mix. To promote a product, you need to have an appropriate mixture of certain elements. Let us see what is this promotion mix and what are the elements of this promotion mix. The first element is advertising. And all these promotion mix, when you are taking into consideration, the company needs to remember that today, because of the growth in technology, there are 3 V's that the company can concentrate on. The first V is video. So, you can use video to attract rural audiences. Second V is voice, and the third V is vernacular. So, the language which is being used to communicate to the rural audiences. So, these 3 V's have to be taken into consideration: video, voice and vernacular. These are becoming significant factors for rural promotions. So, promotion mix, when the company is trying to think about to target rural audiences, they basically have to think about these 3 V's. And the first element which is there in the promotion mix is called as advertising. Let us see what is this advertising. Advertising, basically, if you have to define it, it is called as a paid form of non-personal promotion, which means that the company is paying somebody to advertise and it is non-personal. That is, the person who is seeing the ad is not personally connected with this particular company, but the ad is being seen through a media. That means it is not personally done, but it is done through a platform. There is a media which is being used. So, you have advertising as the first element in the promotion mix, paid form of non-personal communication, and this advertising has got the largest reach, because you can target geographically spread audiences also. Somebody who is a manufacturer in Delhi, I can see the ad sitting here in Hyderabad and I can think about buying that particular product, because television and print media is available here to see that ad. So the manufacturer can be in some other country also and you can still see their ad here. In international marketing, you would have more of Indian brands which are being promoted and advertised in international market. So people who are in other countries are able to see the advertisements of Indian brands also. So you would have advertisements, which is a paid form of non-personal promotion. That is the first one. Second one that you have is personal selling. So in promotion mix, personal selling means involving interaction between two or more people. So you would have two or more people who are interacting with one another. So it is basically where you would have it can be door-to-door selling, where you have interaction between a salesperson and the target market audience who is there. So the prospective consumer gets in touch with the salesperson and the salesperson tries to promote the brand by demonstrating it, displaying it, clearing the doubts which the person may have, and finally placing the order and buying the product. So you would have personal selling. Then you have sales promotion. This is one of the attractive forms of promotion, because here you are talking about rewarding the customer, where the customer is getting not only the brand, but he is also getting along with the product an additional benefit. It can either be a coupon, it can be a free ticket to something, it can be a price reduction, it can be a winning contest, it can be a premium offer, it can be a free product like 50% extra or buy one get one free. All these are all the strategies which are used by the companies to promote the brands in the rural areas. And because in rural areas you have the problem of affordability, income levels of rural audience is very low. So therefore, most of the companies try to attract the rural audiences by giving a lot of promotional tools. So sales promotion is a part of promotion mix for rural audiences, where you are talking about rewarding the consumer not only with the product but also some other thing which they can enjoy along with the product. It can be extra product, it can be buy one get one free, or it can be any winning of a contest, lottery, or any other thing it can be. So you have advertising, personal selling, sales promotion. So far we discussed these three. The fourth one is called direct marketing. As the very word says, direct. It means that there is nobody in between the company and between the customer. So direct marketing basically talks about specific communication which happens between the company and between the customer. Say for example, you have brands such as Amway, you have brands such as Eureka Forbes. All these companies actually go and market their products directly. That means they are using some platform where there is no middleman who is being involved. The company and the consumer are in connection to one another. There is no middleman. That is why you call it as direct marketing, because middleman is eliminated. That is also a part of it. Then public relations is the last element in promotion mix, where you talk about the company involving itself in activities so that it can communicate to a larger audience, which is public relations it is called, where you are talking about company having to tell its consumers all information about everything that happens in the company, all their events and all they will inform. So it is trying to maintain relations with the public as such. So you have public relations. Like how I told 4 P's in marketing mix, similarly when it is rural marketing, you have to talk about 4 A's. 4 A's have to be concentrated by companies targeting rural audiences. The first A is availability. Where all do you want your brand to be available? How many villages? How many interior parts of the villages? How many districts do you want it to be available? So under 4 A's, the first one is availability. Second one is affordability. Can the rural audience afford your brand? Because urban audiences have got different sources of income, but rural audiences depend either on agriculture or there are small non-farm activities such as pottery, carpentry, weaving. These are small non-farm activities. So their source of income is very low. So when a company is targeting a rural audience and pricing their product, they have to remember about affordability part. So even when you are promoting, say for example, sachet marketing. Sachet marketing started only because of the understanding of author called C.K. Prahalad, who wrote in his book Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid. where C.K. Prahalad spoke about, and there was also Jagdish Sheth, who is a master of consumer behavior, where they spoke about, you know, fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, where they said that if you want to make more money, then you have to attract people in the rural areas with lower income. But these people, how will they buy your product? Start selling them product in small packages. That is how sachet marketing. You get shampoos in small sachet, you get biscuits in small sachets and all. So you call it as affordability, because they can't afford a bigger bottle or a bigger packet. So you give them in smaller bottles and smaller packets which are low priced. So you are trying to promote your product using sachet also. So that is called affordability, where you create smaller packaging units. The third one is acceptability. Whether the consumers in rural areas understand your brand properly and are they willing to accept your brand. It was very difficult for LIC to promote their product life insurance policies in rural areas, because you are talking about some product whose benefit will be used not by you but by somebody else after your death. So when you are promoting some product which is talking about your death, then rural audiences did not understand the product. They said that why should I buy a insurance policy? So it was not very easily acceptable by them. It was very difficult for LIC to penetrate there, and they had lot of promotion activities and it clicked later. So therefore acceptability, it should be easy to understand and it should also be suitable product to the rural audiences. Then you have, how are you creating awareness? So you are creating awareness either on a one-to-one program, or do you have a mass program where you are trying to create awareness. Now last thing to remember by the companies trying to market their products in the rural audiences is whether you are trying to pull the audience or whether you adopt a push strategy. So your rural promotion strategy can either be a push strategy or a pull strategy. What is this push? Push strategy means you are selling the product to the channel, and channel will sell the product to the ultimate consumer. Channel is a middleman. Middleman, any middleman is there, retailer, wholesaler and all. So you target your product to them and they will sell to the consumer. So you are pushing the product through a channel. Or it can be a pull strategy, where you are attracting the customer first through all your promotions, be it advertising or wall printing or mailer, heart, whatever it is. They get attracted first, then they go to the shops and intermediaries and start demanding the product, who in turn buy from you. So therefore you can either go for a push strategy where it is company, channel and consumer, or it is a pull strategy where the consumer gets attracted first, then starts demanding your product to the intermediary who is there, who will ultimately buy from you. So to conclude, what is the way forward? What is it that the companies will have to look for when they are entering rural market? Firstly, they have to understand that rural consumers have become upscale and they are trying to adopt technology. So e-commerce platforms are getting very effective there. Second, rural audiences are getting attracted in wellness brands, lifestyle products. So most companies can enter with health, wellness and lifestyle. And third, with the PM Modi's vision, that is Atmanirbhar program, where many people are coming forward for rural entrepreneurship also. So there are sources of income are increasing. So many people have got increased income through which consumption can increase and companies can go for marketing more products. I hope you all have understood today's lesson on rural promotion. Thank you.